Hey y'all, welcome back to the Bible and Beyond podcast. Welcome if you're new. I am your host, Louise St. Cyr. It's been a minute since I've been on, guys. I do apologize. I was under the weather yet again, and energy wise, I've just been really down, and I had to really fight off whatever was attacking my system, my body. But with a lot of prayer, because I felt like it was more of a spiritual warfare than anything else, honestly, because I eat pretty healthy. I mean, I haven't been able to work out as much as I normally do when I was in a different location and state altogether than where I'm at. But for the most part, I still remain active. I do walk a lot to go to the store and whatnot. Anyway, so yeah, I do apologize. I've just been under the weather and kind of distracted in a way. My focus just haven't been the same. So anyway, I'm working on it to get back on track. As you know, like when I first started, I was doing it weekly, as I said I would. So do pardon me for now. This would make the third week since I've done the last one. Anyway, today's topic, let's dive right into it. Don't take up too much of your time. Today's topic is don't poke the bear, because it is a dangerous thing to poke the bear. So you don't ever want to do that. You don't want to disturb the peace and awaken the beast in someone, and then you go crying wolf, or you go crying foul, but you weren't crying foul when you were causing the foul. Do you see what I mean? Like, don't provoke someone to the point where they have to lose it or snap on you and show a ugly side of them that they don't want to or not used to showing. And then you try to flip the script and point the finger in the opposite direction and say, see, I told you so. He or she's a bad person, or they're evil, or they're violent, but you poked the bear one time's too many. Try going up to a grizzly and poking it. You only need to do it one time, honey, and off with your head it goes, because he's just turn around and whip its claw at you several times. One very, I have to, caution you, gruesome scene in the movie The Revenant, I think, starring not Nicolas Cage. I love this actor. He's really good. Leonardo DiCaprio. Brilliant movie. If you've seen what the bear did to him, and he didn't, well, I can't remember the scene in the movie whether he shot at the bear, or was he just in the vicinity of it, and then the mother got very defensive and attacked him, and man, that scene is the best and the most gruesome scene. So beware if you don't have good stomach for tragic animal versus human attack situation. Don't watch it. But that, I kid you not, that is the best scene yet, very gruesome scene of that movie. It's called The Revenant, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. So don't poke the bear, okay? Especially if it's a grizzly. You don't want to do that, okay? It's okay if it's a koala or panda or a, those friendly little bears. At least you won't get your head torn off. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Anyway, I said that so loosely, but I'm just saying, if you poke the bear, expect the outcome from that. You know what I mean? It's like cause and effect. What did you do? You poked the bear. A very dangerous bear, but you didn't know it was a danger. Maybe you thought it was a koala bear because it was, dressed with a sweet exterior, soft exterior, but inside they're tough as nails and come at you. And rip you to pieces because you poked it one times too many. Okay, it's the same thing with us human beings. We have our breaking points. All jokes aside, we have our breaking points, we have our limits, we have boundaries, and those who set boundaries will enforce them. And if you proceed to disrespect and overstep sacred boundaries into someone's personal space, then beware. Beware that you're going to have a negative reaction from that someone. You've poked them one times too many. It's like you just keep slapping someone in the face, or you keep poking someone in their rib cage and they go ouch, or you step on their toes or punch them in the rib or whatever, and they go ouch the first time and the second time and the third time. They keep saying ouch, 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 and you don't. And please stop, don't do that, stop. And you don't. And then they had enough. They reached their breaking point and they turn around and then sadly off with you're non-existent or whatever, or some severe situation happened to you. So don't poke the bear and then go crying foul. Okay, don't say oh my gosh, she slapped me in the face, or he punched me, or he shoved me to the ground, or he did the worst of the worst to me after I poked him several times. I mean, doesn't that sound insane? Rightly so. If someone keeps poking you and you tell them ouch, ouch, stop every time, and they continue, and then they unleash the beast because you don't disturb their peace, full side of them, don't try to make them out to be the bad guy, okay? Because they're not. What you did was wrong. You provoked the situation. You essentially got what you deserve, because you wouldn't stop hurting someone or causing them problems or trouble. And finally, karma caught up with you, okay? Secondly, poking the bear and getting a negative reaction, okay, is justified anger. It is justified. It is a justified reaction because you just wouldn't stop hurting the person. You just wouldn't stop being malevolent towards the person. You just wouldn't stop causing them trouble. You just wouldn't stop with your rumors and your lies and trying to set them up and trying to destroy their lives with false claims and accusations about such individual or individuals. You wouldn't stop with your gang stalking and your smear campaign. You just kept poking the bear until the bear had enough. The bear gave you grace, called aka patience, which is a lovely virtue, I would say. Patience is indeed a virtue, as it's stated in the Bible. In scripture states that patience is a virtue. And that person gave you much grace, but you did not recognize it, nor did you appreciate it, neither did you adhere to it. And then you again want to point the finger in opposite direction and pretend like you're the victim and the person you've been poking is the victimizer. You want to pretend like, you're the sheep and they're the wolf, when in fact it's quite the opposite way around. For example, you did something rather offensive and violating towards someone's rights and freedom. I'm going to give you a real life situation, my own experience. When my sons were taken illegally by so-called authority over there in a particular county there in Georgia, Gwinnett County, to be frank. And court hearing after court hearing, they just kept BSing me about the matter. Firstly, the first nonsensical offense was and abuse of power and authority was that they took my children illegally, meaning without just cause. That's when they were teenagers. At the time, my middle son was 17 and the youngest was 15 or 16. I think it was 15. And it didn't take the oldest because he had just turned 18. That's a long story, so I'm going to leave it there. Save the details for the book I'll be writing to tell about this hell of a storm of a century. Anyway, and court hearing after court hearing after court hearing, I was BS'd in court. Not just by the fake public defender who was pretending to be on my side, when really she was just playing along, gaming with the co-signing with everything the opposing party, what do you call them, the child prosecutor or whatever they are, and the judge, anything and everything they said, she sided with them. She did not disagree with anything. She just nodded her head in agreement because why? They're in each other's pockets. This is a game they play. That's what you call an organized crime system that they use to steal people's children for money. Long story short, I will get back to that at some other time to tell that story. As I said, I'll save the details for the book. But the point of the matter is I had enough. It was about between 6 to 8 court hearings at that point, and I had enough, and I laid down some very fiery words on my timeline, my Facebook timeline, and I stated, to put it nicely, if my children weren't in court at the next court hearing, there would be a serious problem. Again, to put it nicer than how I wrote it on my timeline, not to them, but to my friends list, the people on my friends list, to let them know what's going on. If anything happened to me or my children, here's what happened. Here are the criminals who are responsible for it, pretending to be law-abiding people, but they're in fact breaking the law and cashing in kids, using kids for cash, essentially, because what they were doing. Anyway, so long story short, I don't want to make this video long. If I have to get into that, this video will go on for about forever. It'll take more than a day to get through this matter. But the point is, they caused an offense. They kept poking the bear, the wrong bear at that. They thought I was a koala or a panda, okay? But I was a grizzly on the inside. When you disturb the peace and awaken the beast, that's what happens. My grandmother had a thing that she used to say, when you do stuff like that, you're barking up the wrong tree, darling. You done stepped on the wrong toes. Modern day way to say it, you done messed with the right one. Some say you done messed with the wrong one, type of thing, And so that was the situation, because they've done it for so long and got away with it, attacking people who are less fortunate to have the money to fight them. But I have brains in my head. Even if I don't have a lot of money, I have brains in my head. I'm quite intelligent and smart, and I know how to use my brain. And certainly I'm not no dodo bird, and so I put them in their place. I stood up to the bullies, and they didn't like it, and they wanted to throw me under the bus and make me out to be the criminal that they are. How is that fair? Please do tell me. When initially you took my children illegally. So that alone would shut the case down had I had fair due process in high courts. I wouldn't want it over there because they're all in each other's pockets over there in Gwinnett County. So anyway, that's just an example of how you should not poke the bear. Okay, disturb somebody's peace. I was crying myself to sleep every night, worried sick about my sons. What are they doing with them? Ordered me not to speak to them without just cause. It wasn't an abusive matter. So what right did you have? Anyway, I'm just saying. I've yet to receive justice, but I'm just giving you an example of how you should dare not poke the bear and then want to flip the script and make it seem like the bear that you poked until you got fierce backlash, and suddenly it's the bear's fault and not yours. The bear is guilty, you're not. The bear is the wolf and you're the sheep. How is that How does that make sense? How in your logical mind does that add up to being just and fair? And it doesn't make any sense. That math just isn't math. And so don't go poking the bear if you don't want to reap the consequences. Okay? In other words, don't go out here causing hurt, harm, and pain if you don't want to feel the ramifications, the karma. Sometimes it's instant karma depending on who you're messing with. Okay? For instance, when you go messing with the right or wrong person, and then you get that immediate, and it wasn't even immediate. It wasn't like the first court hearing. It was like, listen, 6 to 8 court hearings, and they were dragging it out like 2-3 weeks at a time. So time was passing. Anyway, don't poke the bear if you don't want to get the negative. At that point, it wasn't even a reaction. It was a response of intelligence of, oh my gosh, my children's safety and well-being are in danger. I need to do something or say something to make sure they don't harm or hurt or sex or human traffic my children, who God knows what they were planning on doing. So as a caring, loving mother, I did what was best to ward off whatever evil intent they had for my sons. And I can tell you it wasn't good, because the alarming feeling I got in the pit of my stomach, and I'm a very intuitive person, was enough to tell me this isn't right. That situation just wasn't kosher. There's something isn't right, and I must act immediately. And I did so for my children's safety and well-being. And I got, given the dirty end of the stick for it. Anyway, justice in America, it is not. All right, point number 3, moving on. Patience do run thin when it reaches a point of enough is enough, as I just stated. And so you just have to be, you know what it is? Let's just put it this way. There's a statement that says, and I believe I touched on this in a prior video, more in depth though, I think. Don't do to others. Here's what really don't poke the bear really means on a deeper level. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want done to you and yours. Don't do to someone and their loved ones what you wouldn't want done to you and your loved ones. It's simple mathematics called RESPECT, respect. Respecting another person's life, okay, as you would want for yourself and your children and your husband, your spouse, whomever, okay, people you love and care about. Don't overstep boundaries and thinking it's okay simply because you wear a badge or you have a important title in which power you are abusing over the precious lives where you were entrusted to oversee. That is called abuse of power. Okay, organized crime systems, that is abuse of power when so-called law officials and persons, okay, personnels, abuse their seat of power and authority and take advantage of the good people of the land. Okay? And it should not be allowed, because folks, whatever you allow will continue. Whatever you condone will continue. This is something I've said many moons over, and it is very true. I've had to go through some rough things to realize what you condone will continue. It is called implied consent. So if you don't want it to continue, you better put your foot down. You better draw a clear line in the sand. You better set crystal clear boundaries that says, dare, caveat, dare not cross. If you do, it is at your risk. You know what I mean? Like something of the sort, to be plain and blunt. So let's dive into scripture. Scripture says here in Ephesians 6:4, Fathers, do not provoke your children. I'd say father and mother. Father and mother, parents, do not provoke your children to wrath. And then also, in essence, it's saying, I know there's another flip side of that quote that says, children, respect thy mother and thy father so that your days may be long. However, parents, do not provoke your children to anger where they have to be defensive because you are one, abusive, either verbally, physically, even some people say emotional and mental scars far worse than physical scars because physical scars can fade, they disappear, but the emotional ones, they stay for almost a lifetime for some people who don't know how to let go of the pain, and then the worst end of that is they become the monsters they once hated. So you can destroy your child in such a way. So don't provoke, just like a child should not disrespect. Respect is, it's really simple. Respect is a two-way street, not a one-way lane. And I've said this before in a prior video. So don't expect what you don't give. Don't ask for what you're not willing to give to someone else. Don't ask for respect if you can't give it. Don't ask for love if you're not giving it. Don't expect care if you don't give it, because what you put out is what you get back. In essence, I can promise you what you put out is what you get back. Sometimes the things you get back aren't deserving because you're under attack unjustly. However, when it is a justified matter, let me tell you, what you put out, you get back. Positive or negative. What you put out is what you get back. What goes around comes around, in other words. Another way to say it. So, because I can tell you the kindness, because I'm by default a kind, loving person, despite, as I mentioned in prior video again, despite the hell that was being tossed at me, afflicted against me unjustly, God's goodness still found me anyway. There was some kind stranger. God always dropped a ram in the bush for me. And most of the time it was by complete strangers. Complete, utter strangers came to my aid, came to my rescue, supported me. Okay? So, respect is a two-way street. As children should not disrespect them. I'm very big on respect. Yes, I do not. When my children were younger, and still today, I do not tolerate disrespect from my children, much less anyone else. So it's a very important thing because it's. I don't know how to describe it. The violation of being disrespected is so like spirit cringing, it's like it really takes you back several steps, like that. Just in some cases you literally really have to take deep breaths before you have to blow a gasket or something on somebody, because it's just that utterly rude and offensive. So just as children should not disrespect their parents dare not provoke your children to get angry and have to sin against you for you provoking them, poking the bear until you got a negative reaction out of them. They said ouch, ouch, ouch the first time, and you just kept going. You kept abusing them verbally, mentally, emotionally, physically, causing harm and hurt. Ouch, stop, please. And you wouldn't let up until that child retaliated in the worst of ways. And then suddenly the child is disrespectful or rude. But wait a minute here. Who was the initiator in this matter? Who drew first blood? Let's be fair. Don't just automatically point and say, oh, you're just rude and disrespectful child, ungrateful child, blah, blah, blah. But this whole time you were being an abusive, unloving, repulsive parent. So, but suddenly when the child had enough and flipped the script on you and gave you back a dose of your own poison. Some people like to say medicine. I don't call that medicine. That's poison. That toxic stuff is poison. Medicine heals you. It's good for you. Poison is the opposite. It's toxic. It's bad for you. So the child then retaliated finally and gave you back a dose of your own poison, and suddenly he or she is the bad guy. We really have to get it together, folks. We up here really have to get it together. Honest to God. Let's not try to villainize somebody when you're the victimizer. Okay? You're literally trying to villainize the victim. I mean, come on. That's sick and twisted. And it's not right in God's eyes. God is a just God. You know what I love about God? Is that he's a just God. The little kinks and the crooks and the crannies and the nooks and crevices and corners, you know, the various scenarios of a situation, okay? God sees it. He's a wholesome God. This is why he's just, because he sees wholesomely. He's not biased. He's not prejudiced in his perception, okay, in his perspective, in his point of view. He sees everything. He sees how the situation from start to finish, how it began, how it transpired, to how it escalated and evolved into what it became. And so this is why he can judge justly, without bias, without prejudice, without malice, without malevolent intent. This is why I love God, because he's a fair God. He sees what we can't see. For those who can see, though, there are those of us, like myself, humbly I say so, I can see the spiritual undertaking of a situation, though it in the physical, it looked like it was this one way, but you didn't see the hands behind the scenes that were really the puppet in the situation, pulling the strings to orchestrate the situation. So you don't know the full magnitude parameter of the whole situation. You don't understand it because you're missing a very important part, the unseen, called the spiritual world, spiritual warfare, in other words. There was a hand, Mr. The wizard behind the curtain of life, okay? You missed that whole thing. So it's important that you're fair in your judgment, okay? Don't just say, oh, because I wear a badge, you have to listen to me, you have to obey me, but I can punch you in the face 10,000 times and you have to take it because I'm the boss. I'm in charge. I'm law and order. But no, you're abusing your power and authority. And no, I don't know which world you're from, but in the world of God and justice, law, true law and order and justice, that is not okay. That is abuse. And it will not be condoned for it to continue. We must put a stop to it. Another scripture goes on. Let's see. Where am I? Galatians 5:26. It says, let us not become conceited, provoking one another, enjoying another, and envying. Let's read that again. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. Right. It says don't provoke. Do not become so conceited that you provoke and or envy another. The key word there is provoke. Provoking someone to anger, provoking someone to get upset, provoking someone to sin against you because you sinned against them one times too many. You've poked the bear one times too many, and the bear had enough. Okay? And struck back. Strike back. Okay? And the bear isn't suddenly guilty just because it had enough. You are the guilty party. You provoked the situation just to get a negative reaction until you finally did, and it wasn't pretty. You didn't like it. You enjoyed dishing it out because you're a sadist. A sadist is somebody who enjoys inflicting pain on another person and themselves. Okay? So suddenly, the victim cannot become the villain. You are guilty, irregardless of what your title is. You are guilty for being a provoker. Romans 14:13. Therefore, let us not pass judgment on one another any longer, but rather decide never to put stumbling blocks or hindrance in the way of another. So, when you provoke someone, you cause them to do things that are not so nice. Things that can very well get them in trouble. Therefore, you're causing a hindrance in that someone's life. You were an assigned demon. Okay, that whole situation was a setup. It was orchestrated. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you knew if you got that reaction out of that person that they would get in trouble and they would be behind bars. You would dirty their names just for one time incident of them being provoked to the point of I've had enough, to the point of no return in some cases. Some people lose it permanently. They flip out because they've gone through abuse for many, many years. Okay? Their psyche has broken. And then here you are taking joy in their suffering that you orchestrated. You, the assigned demon, whether you were aware of it or not, was a puppet on the chessboard, orchestrating the downfall of another human being. So yes, this scripture was very befitting now that I'm showing you the other side of it, coming from a different angle. Do you see what I mean? Like, there are different angles to everything. Next scripture. I don't know if I can see this. It is so tiny and I need more carrots. As I stated in a previous video. But when you have a chance, I think it says here Colossians. Lord have mercy. Colossians 3:12 through 13. I'm not even going to try to read it. But when you get a chance, it's also in reference to not poking the bear. And then this one is 1 Corinthians 8:9. But take care that this right of yours does not somehow become, oh, I read that already, stumbling block to the weak. Yes, this one says the weak, but it's similar to the last one I just read, Romans 14:13. But this says added at the end, to the weak. You don't become a stumbling block. That's at a hindrance. Same difference. To the weak. We're all strong. Even the strong has a point of enough is enough, which is Romans 14:13. Even the strong has a point of enough is enough. But then there's the weak, 1 Corinthians 8:9, who has a point of enough is enough. Theirs is more short fuse than the strong. Okay? So don't provoke somebody who may be emotionally unstable to begin with, or someone who is short fused, who don't tolerate the nonsense, who don't like being poked not even one time, and will flip on you, and then you cause them trouble. You brought trouble to that person because they were minding their business. They're not out here poking anybody. They didn't come and poke you. You came and poked them. Okay? And you got a reaction you weren't expecting. And then suddenly you want to call that person, okay, the villain, and want to make yourself out to be the victim. It is not so. That is not the truth. The truth is you're the villain, and you victimize the person you provoked to get a negative reaction out of them. So that's in essence another angle of 1 Corinthians 8:9, in which you can apply that to life situations. And this one, and which one is this? Don't walk carnally, provoking one another to sin. Instead, walk by the Spirit, as stated in Galatians. This is Galatians 5:27. Guys, I'm so sorry. I really have to get some carrots and drink the juice on a regular basis. It'll help me. I know it will. Since 5G is just affected my eyesight. I had superb eyesight prior to switching over to 5G. I kid you not. It was after I switched to 5G. But I know how to fix it. Thank God for that knowledge. I know how to help my body heal. Anyway, so that's what Galatians 5:25 says. Don't walk carnally, provoking one another to sin. Instead, walk by the Spirit. Because when you're in the Spirit, you will never become a puppet on the devil's chessboard to provoke another person to get a negative reaction out of them, to cause them trouble, to get them behind bars, or to get them killed, or whatever, to get them fired, whatever the situation is. You would never do that. You would never provoke another person to sin if you are walking by the Spirit rather than the flesh, which is girded about by the devil. The Spirit of God will keep the flesh under control, under your foot, keep that little beast in check. But be mindful. Don't provoke the peace and disturb the beast, okay? Unleash the kraken, as it's been said in the Greek, in times of Greek rulership. That monster that came up from the deep sea, the kraken. You can essentially associate that with a beast in all of us. You know, we all have a yin and a yang to ourselves. Okay? It's okay. As long as you have great self-control and can tame that little beast, okay? That monster, okay? That inner beast. It only becomes a problem when you give it reins and put it in the driver's seat. Then it becomes the ruler of you. Okay? Your emotions get the best of you. When it is in the driver's seat, that means your lower nature, your lower self has taken over, aka the devil. Because when you operate from the base point of yourself, you are entertaining lower entities. And lower entities have access to you, and they can control you, possess you, get you to think and do things, crazy things, wicked things, get you to go out there and provoke somebody, blah, 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 use you as a pawn, use you as an assigned demon, yada, yada, yada. But when you have the Spirit, when you're living in the Spirit and walking in the Spirit, no such thing can come nigh thy temple. Okay? It cannot possess you. It cannot take control over you, because God is in the driver's seat. Your higher self, your greatest, highest, best self is in the driver's seat. Your God self. God's Spirit, the Holy Spirit, is within you, and will say, when you're about to do that wrong thing. Don't do that. In fact, you won't even think of it. When you're walking by the Spirit, you won't even think to even do such a thing to harm or hurt or provoke anybody, to cause them trouble. You would never. It wouldn't even be a thought. I can promise you that, because I'm I'm a testimony of that. I can say that by default. I walk in the spirit, and I would never dream of harming or hurting anyone. Maybe I'll scare the daylights out of you for you to back off if you're causing, you're overstepping boundaries, like I have to do those folks over there in Georgia. But with words, I'm good with my words. I said, you know what? I'm in the wrong profession when all that craziness happened years ago. And I still didn't get justice yet. And I had to bow out in peace and say, God, I know you're going to bring justice eventually. Yeah, that matter will be brought to justice. Because if I take matters into my own hand and let the little beast unleash on these wicked people, I'd be in trouble. They would provoke me to the point of getting the reaction out of me. They thought they got me with just a word, but I didn't send it to them. How did you see it? Anyway, they were stalking me because they knew what they did was wrong. They knew they took my children illegally, and they didn't know this whole operation of theirs is illegal. Yes. That story. That truth. Anyway, moving along. So, when you walk in the spirit, you would never even dare dream to hurt another person, to rob them, to steal, to hurt them. Neither would you dare think to kill another person, to take their life. Pardon me, I gotta watch these words I use here on YouTube. Could get flagged. I hope not. To unalive another person. You would never dream of such a thing. To set up another person, trying to frame somebody for something they didn't do. You would never think of such a thing when you're walking in the spirit. When you're truly a godly person, you would never steal, kill, nor deceive, nor destroy. Facts. That is the truth. That is the absolute truth. All right. And which grants traits of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So when you're walking in the spirit, it grants you, I'm still on Galatians 5:20, I'm just elaborating. When you walk in the spirit, all these wonderful things come from you. Love, joy, peace, patience. You'll exercise that to your fellow human being, to your fellow neighbor, to your fellow sister and brother, in Christ or not. You would show kindness, love, joy, peace. You'll exemplify all these wonderful things, and you'll never dare think, as I said, to harm or provoke or hurt or deceive or take the life of another human being. It wouldn't even be a thought. It could be a scare tactic, but as a strategy to ward off evil, like I did, but it would never be like an automatic answer. Like it took me 5, 6 to 8 court hearings before I had to say, enough is enough. You guys are not going to cause me any more pain. You're not going to jeopardize my children, continue to jeopardize my children's safety and well-being. No, it stops here and now, because that was the urgent, alarming feeling I felt in the pit of my stomach from onset, the moment they took them initially. But it got more intensified as these court hearings kept lingering on. They kept drawing them out. Anyway, they kept poking the bear, and they got a not so pleasant response. Anyway, moving on, and it says here, so how do you combat being a spawn of Satan? How do you pull yourself away from being a pawn on the chessboard of the enemy's side of the fence? Temper yourselves. Soft answer turns away wrath. In this particular statement, this is referring to the victim. Try your best. So this is how you cannot become a victim. And also, I'm going to share with you how not to be a bully, a victimizer, a villain against innocent people to provoke a negative reaction out of them. So this one says, a soft answer turns away wrath. So if you are being victimized by someone who's pushing your buttons or pushing the wrong buttons, one times too many, poking the bear in essence, looking for a negative reaction, temper yourself, control yourself, apply great self-control, put your emotions in check before your emotions put you in check and, get you in trouble. Not everybody is a master of their emotions. We are all at different stages. So don't get mad if somebody lose their cool, because enough is enough. Okay? Let's just understand that. So even though I or you may be great at controlling our emotions to keep the beast tamed, the inner beast tamed, right? Somebody else may be too weak, as in 1 Corinthians 8:9 says. Don't be a stumbling block to the weak. Don't provoke the weak to sin. In other words, from another angle. So not everybody is strong the same, as I like to say it. So if you are strong and you are in great control, or if you're practicing how to become in great control of your emotions, then a soft answer turneth away wrath. So if someone is provoking you, saying mean, nasty things to you, take a deep breath, walk away, do something, change the subject. Soft answer turneth away wrath. Or if you have to say something, instead of the mean something you really want to say, think of something nice but sarcastic to say, to put them in their place, but in an intelligent way. Yeah, do that. Okay, do that. But I understand if you've gotten to the point of enough is enough and you're not there yet. You're just not there yet. You've been going through a lot, and that they come, here you are carrying a mountain on your back, and somebody came and added another Mount Kilimanjaro on your back on top of the one you're already carrying. Okay, they placed another boulder on your shoulder, and you just had enough. This was it. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. It's one thing messing with me. I'm strong, I can take it, but it's another thing messing with my children who are still young and still learning and still vulnerable. And as their mother, it is my duty, assigned by God, to protect them. And so I did, and I will not apologize for that ever. Oh my gosh, we're 47 minutes in. All right, let's quickly give you some solutions here on how to not become a victim, or how to stop being a villain and provoking people. Stop poking the bear. Stop being a bear poker. It says, be quick to hear and slow to answer. That's James 6:19. Be quick to hear and slow to anger. Indeed. Again, it coincides with the first one. Soft answer turneth away wrath. Be quick to hear, slow to anger. Is essentially just saying think before you react. Give a response. Think to give a response versus not thinking and reacting, and the situation escalates out of your control and everybody's control, between you and the other party's control. And not saying you're at fault for reacting because you've been poked one times too many, but do your best to try not to let the enemy get the best of you, to try not let them get a one-up on you. Don't let them mess you up the way they want to mess you up, just like they wanted to do me, because the devil's exact words were, oh, I got you now. That son of a gun said that to me during that whole situation. I kid you not. I heard it. Maybe he thought I didn't hear it, but I heard it. And I said, you think you got me, but you didn't. This is to teach y'all a lesson. Okay, the lesson isn't mine. In a slight way it is, that perhaps I should have soft answer. I should have think before I spoke type of thing. But no, I feel absolutely justified, because those people have been doing that for so long and getting away with it, destroying, ripping apart families whom are, you know, poor, who don't have enough money to fight. Those are the people they target, by the way, because they know they have an advantage over them. They know they can't fight back, with the resource that most people would do. That, in fact, they would dare not do that to a wealthy person, because they know, you know, they're as good as cooked as a goose. So they targeted the less fortunate because they know they didn't have the resources to fight back. And they figure, if you don't have, this is where they messed up with me. They figure if you don't have the resource to fight back, then you must also be dumb. They think because you don't have a ton of money in your pockets, that means you also don't have a brain, because that's the reason why you don't have money, because you're dumb and stupid. No, I'm not, less fortunate because I'm dumb and stupid. I'm going through it financially because I'm under spiritual attack, because they don't want me to excel. They know I can amount to great things, and they don't want me to get to that point. So they want to cap me. They want to, keep me down and out. They want to paint me to be dumb and stupid and crazy and whatever other sick, twisted, false diagnosis and labels they want to place on you, when they know you are someone to reckon with. Yeah, they know it. I know it too, but I'm humble about it. I'm not here walking around proud and boastful and think I know it all, because I don't. I'm still learning. I'm still a student within this universe. Humbly and gladly say so. I love to learn. I love learning new things. It makes me better. It expands me in lots of ways. So, but I know myself, and I'm not going to let anybody take that from me ever. They can't. They didn't give it to me anyway, so they can't take what they didn't give to me. God gave it to me. That's the difference when man gives you something and versus God gives you something. When man gives you something, he can swiftly snatch it back from you. He can be an Indian giver. But when God, you just got to do something to piss them off, or they're not happy about, they don't like. Yeah, they could take it back. They could, what do they call them nowadays? What's that modern day phraseology when they cancel people? Cancel, whatever. They cancel you. When you don't do what they say, you don't get in formation and, join the bandwagon, and, you don't lick the dirt off their boots and kiss their asses and whatnot. Pardon my French. They derriere. Just to get ahead, so they can dangle the carrot and drip feed you and whatnot, and, tease you along and to nowhere fast. Death and destruction, essentially. If you're not one of those people, that's what they do. Okay? They will give you hell to go through to get to heaven that you rightfully deserve. And they act as though they have some right, as though they're God, that you need their permission and their validation and their confirmation and their acceptance to go to heaven, or to get the good things, the goodness of life that God already ordained for you, that God already has your name on in heaven. They want to play goalie in your ring and block it and keep you from it, as though they have some right, the nerve. They're not God. And God is saying, no, no, no. No, when the matter comes to heaven's door, gets to the judge's table, the ultimate judge, he's like, excuse me, how dare you? Get out of the way, or else. Just like I said, return my children, or else. If they're not at the next court hearing, there's going to be a problem. Okay? All right. That was fair. Scare tactic warning. But it worked. Whatever they were planning to do to my children, what I wrote scared them so much that they stopped them in their tracks. And that was it, because I felt helpless, because I kept reaching out to upper authorities and nobody was doing anything. I wasn't getting through to them. They were intercepting my phone calls. Guys, it's a long story. Anyway. They pretended to be law officials, to be lieutenants, to be FBI agents, and they weren't. They blocked me, and they're still blocking me. Like, I can tell they're messing with this channel's growth, because when I first started, it started to pick up. Then the minute they got word that I'm on the public scene again, I noticed how the subscription has halted. they shadow block you. That's what they do. But I'm going to keep going, because when you keep going, you're going to break through the barrier. Okay? So this is why they're attacking my health, because they know they can't destroy my willpower. So they attack my health so that I can't feel well enough to get up and get in front of the camera and otherwise and do things to excel my life, to move beyond the barrier they've placed before me. But I overlook all barriers. I look at the solution, not the problem. My focus is on the prize, not the problem. Okay? Mind over matter. It's a very sharp mental and spiritual tool, that you can use to maneuver through the darts of life that they throw at you unjustly. Anyway, wow, it's getting dark. I know it doesn't seem like that on screen, but it is. So what's another way to not be a victim and don't be a victimizer? Let's see if I can overcome evil with good. Yes, overcome evil with good. That is Romans 12, 19 through 21, it looks like. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I see that in this darkness. There's another part of it, but I'm gonna have to admit it, guys. I can't see the rest. Hold on, let me turn on the light. Maybe that will help. Well, actually, do I have a flashlight? Hold on. 1 second. Yes. There was light. All right, okay. So that was Romans 12, 17 through 21. I was close. Do not render evil for evil. Yes. Forgive and show patience and interrupt the cycle of anger. Yes. So you forgive and show patience so as to interrupt the cycle of anger. And this is why you do not render evil for evil, but you overcome evil with good. So in situations when you're being provoked, remember what is at stake. What does that cost if you do something violent? I used words, so words are not violent. God knows. I think any sensible somebody knows words are not violence. I mean, they can break hearts, they can hurt feelings, but they don't take lives. Okay, they don't break bones. They only break hearts. I mean, that's an intangible thing, but they break hearts. But it's not. Words are not a measure of violence. They're simply words. Words are dangerous in a sense, again, that they break hearts, hurt feelings, but it's not a crime and it's not violence. Okay, so you overcome evil with good. Do not render evil for evil. You overcome evil with good. That is how you respond to when a bear poker is in your midst. It is a fine line, I must say. It is a fine line, and you really have to be a just and pure person, a truly good-hearted person, to know when to step up to the bully and say, enough is enough. You said it the first time they poke you. Ouch, that hurts. Please stop poking me. Please stop hurting me. But they continue and continue and continue. And at some point, you have to, you see what it does. It continue and continue and continue because why? They don't understand the language of love and kindness that you are showing them, and your patience and your tolerance of their evil against you, their wickedness against you, until you had to put your foot down because you were no longer going to condone this sickness from that individual, and you drew a line in the sand, set clear boundaries, and said, enough, back off, or else, type of thing. And you are justified for so doing. You're not an evil person. You're not suddenly a bad person. Suddenly you're not the wolf and they're the sheep. No, darling. It's the other way around. So if it comes to that, you are justified. However, in small matters, do not render evil for evil. You overcome evil with good. And you can apply brakes on a harsher response or reaction. Because sometimes it is a response because they poked you one times too many, over and over again. It was a response at that point where, okay, I've been nice, I've been patient, I've been poised, I've been intelligent, I've been respectful, yet they showed me none. So now I'm going to have to unleash the beast for a little bit. I'm going to have to let the claws and the fangs come out, okay, to play their game that I'm going to play way better than they can, okay, because I'm good at taming the beast, even though I may unleash it. I still have reins on it. I still know how to pull it back in when I'm done handling you and putting you in your place, okay? Sometimes you have to handle people like that in that way, whereas you have to be brutally blunt and clear that enough is enough. You have crossed the line. One time's too many. My patience has now ran thin. In fact, it is no longer existing for you. And you are so justified. It's called justified anger, justified response, and so doing. But don't be so quick to, just like the grizzly, you poke it once, that's all. That's all it takes is just one poke in that grizzly, turn around, rip you to shreds. Don't be a grizzly. Be a koala, be a polar bear, be a sweet little polar bear and koala bear, panda bear, at first. Until you're realizing this person doesn't understand the language of love. So, of your kindness, of your patience, of your understanding, and you're trying to be empathetic and compassionate and give them time to take heed of the warnings, your ouches, and please stop. But don't let it get to a point where they bury you. So at that point, you are justified, like I am justified to have responded to those abusers of power and authority and say, enough. This is not going to go on any longer. I'm not stupid. Okay, I see the game y'all are playing here. I see the illegal actions that y'all have taken from onset. This stops here and now. You're not going to play me for a fool and dragging me in and out of court for eons just so you can corrupt and pollute my children and turn them into gigolos that you wanted to turn them into, and sex and human trial, whatever heck type of sick plans you had for them. Enough was enough. And that was the point that I reached. And I was so justified. And as I said, I would never apologize for standing up in self-defense of my children's safety and well-being against the bullies of life. And you too have the right to do so, but exercise it with good judgment. Not so as not to render evil for evil, but if you need to scare them up a little bit, go ahead. That's why I said I should have become a professional people scarer, bad people scarer. I'm really good at that. So I could be well paid if somebody wants such a job. I would be the right woman for it. Anyway, guys, so yes, that'll be all she wrote for this topic. And if you would like to add to it, feel free. If you want to challenge anything I say, feel free to do so. I am open to a respectful debate. And as per usual, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss whenever I post a new video. And until next time, be good to yourselves and each other. Ciao. Adios. Au revoir. Goodbye, my loves. Toodaloops.